is Jocasta Nu, Jedi librarian. R2-D2, would you like to read a story with me? This is a story about Luke Skywalker's father. No, guess again.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
No, this is before he went to the dark side. This is even before you and C-3PO met Luke Skywalker. Okay, let's get started. The Phantom Menace, Race to the Finish Line. A long time ago, on a small planet called Tatooine, a young boy named Anakin Skywalker looked up at the planet's moons. Although he had never left his home, Anakin had always dreamed on going on great adventures and racing across the stars. One day it looked like Anakin's dreams were coming true. He had met a Jedi Knight named Qui-Gon, who needed supplies to repair his ship. Anakin didn't have any money to help the Jedi, so he entered a pod race hoping to win the supplies. Although Anakin had never won a race before, he knew he could do it. As the timer counted down to the beginning of the race, Anakin looked around at all the other racers. He wasn't worried about any of them, except Sebulba. Anakin knew that Sebulba cheated to win, but he couldn't get away with it this time. Suddenly, the starting gong rang. They were off, but something was wrong. Anakin's pod racer wouldn't move. Anakin began to panic. Sebulba must have done something to his pod racer. But Anakin thought of the words Qui-Gon had told him right before the race. Concentrate on the moment. Feel. Don't think. Use your instincts. Anakin took a deep breath, flipped a few switches, and restarted his engines. They roared to life, and Anakin quickly flew away. But he was a long way behind Sebulba. Meanwhile, Sebulba knocked his ship against other racers. The pod racers crashed off course and burst into flames. Sebulba laughed. One fewer racer to worry about. Behind the crash, Anakin flew through a cavern into a cave. One of the other racers wasn't paying attention and ran right into some rocks. The ship exploded. Anakin quickly flew around the flames. That was close, he thought. Anakin raced through the stadium. He had 2 more laps to the finish. But he smiled. He was catching up on Sebulba. The racers thundered across the planet. Sebulba still ahead of everyone else. He wanted to make sure it stayed that way. Sebulba threw a piece of metal behind him, and it went right into another racer's engine. The engine exploded, and pieces of the pod racer flew everywhere. A piece cut through the cable connecting Anakin's cockpit to one of his engines. Anakin began to spin out of control, but he remembered Qui-Gon's words. Anakin just couldn't worry about the problem. He had to fix it. Anakin quickly brought his cockpit under control, grabbed a loose cable. Soon he reattached it to his engine and was back in the race. Sebulba and Anakin zoomed through the stadium one last time before the final lap. With all the racers far behind, Anakin realized that Sebulba was the only one between him and the finish line. Sebulba's pod racer was much bigger than Anakin's. He forced Anakin off the course and high onto a cliff. But Anakin wasn't going to be beaten. He changed gears, crashed onto the course right in front of Sebulba. For the first time, Anakin was in the lead. Suddenly, Anakin saw smoke coming out of one of his engines. His pod racer was on fire. The hard landing must have damaged it. As Sebulba raced ahead of him, Anakin knew he didn't have a lot of time. He needed to fix his pod racer right away. Anakin closed a flap before the engine caught on fire and then quickly pumped coolant into the overheated area. Soon the engine roared back to full power. Anakin grinned. This time, he would win the race. Anakin could see the stadium getting closer and closer as he pulled right up to Sebulba. Sebulba turned to push Anakin's smaller ship off course again, but Anakin had a plan this time. As Sebulba rammed him, Anakin caught his pod racer on Sebulba's. Sebulba was stuck. Then Sebulba tried to pull his ship away. Anakin unhooked their crafts. Sebulba zoomed wildly off course and smashed part of his pod racer into a rock. Anakin had used Sebulba's own attack against him. Anakin raised his hands over his head as he crossed the finish line. The crowd cheered. Qui-Gon ran to Anakin's pod racer, lifted him high onto his shoulders. Anakin had done what seemed impossible. He had won the race. Anakin smiled. One of his dreams had come true. He couldn't help wondering what great adventures he'd have next. The end. May the Force be with you.